We're all on our speed challenge, folks, as I'm sure you know. So welcome to this week's report out. I'm going to go straight then to Paula and Cassie, who are going to take us through cardiac ICU, and then we'll come back to Hannah and Hayley as we go through the half hour. So thank you.
So it's myself and Paula presenting for the ultimate cardiac surgical pathway today. Could I have next slide, please? Our problem and challenge was around sort of effective communication with all members of staff that's involved in the cardiac surgical pathway. So we was looking at a process to sort of minimise waste there. These are the slides we presented last time, so I'll appreciate time. If we go to the next slide, please. We did pick quite a few PDSAs initially, but for this initial part, we've just focused on PDSA 2, I think it's 3 and 4, PDSA 2 delaying, identifying sort of definite step downs was one. Next slide, please. PDSA 3 was actually the length of time to actually establish what beds were available on L16. Next slide, please. PDSA 4 was actually the length of time that it actually took for the cardiac surgery ward to confirm how many step downs that they could actually accept from ICU. Next slide, please. So this kind of gets to sort of the data and where we've got to. So the sub-lead time that's spent waiting for a bed, actually at 30 days, we've actually got to 0. So we've done fantastic there. We've got sort of, when I come to the next slide, you'll see sort of 7 out of the 13 days, we actually got times for our step down straight away. So we weren't waiting for any callbacks. There was no delay there. The amount of phone calls that were made between us, we initially had huge amounts of phone calls, but we've actually stepped them down to just 1 phone call now, which again is a massive improvement. And then the sub-lead time, identifying the patients that we had identified on the night shift as being amber and potential to go back to the ward. The time then for the ward round starting to them being sort of deemed green, that they were able to step down. It looks there at the 30 days that actually we've only got a 5-minute shave off because we've done that kind of on the medium base. But when we looked at the mode, there's actually a 15-minute shave off. When Paula talks about her section, you'll see sort of some of the things that have evolved as well around sort of all this data that we've been collecting. The only thing that we didn't get, as I say, on there was sort of the patient and the staff feedback. But again, we'll come to that when we talk about that. Next slide, please. So what went well, like I've said, we've had a 15-minute shave off time in the mode for the data and a 5-minute shave off time when we've sort of looked at the median. And as I've said before, 7 out of the 13 days, we were given immediate times for our step downs, which made the decisions then easier for our afternoon elective cases, that those patients could go ahead without any delays in theatre. And I think what's gone well is, despite the significant pressures that's been happening within the trust and the high acuity that we've had within crit care, we've still made progress over these last few weeks. And I think that's a great achievement, from everybody's part. So we're overall really pleased with the progress we've made. However, we're striving for more. And we believe that we can do this by, and I'm going to hand over to Paula now.
Next slide, please. Yeah, there was a few things and a few slip-ups along the way. First of all, we only managed to start this 2 weeks ago rather than 4 weeks ago when the Kaizen event finished. That was due to high acuity on the unit. It was incredibly difficult to roll it out to start off with. We communicated with our consultant anaesthetist team, anaesthetic team, because there have been inconsistencies in buy-in from the team. It is very unnatural to have to move from different bed spaces that aren't in sequence. So we've had a few problems, but we've listened, and to reduce the amber SART patients that we were seeing, we've asked that our team keep the patients that were green, that they remain green, rather than turn to the amber to reduce the amount that we were seeing. We've introduced some standard work for our nurse in charge, so that there's that communication on PPM, as you can see in the little diagram below, which means that Ward 16 can also access that information should they wish to or need to. And going forward, we haven't stopped. We think that we can still reduce the time it takes to get those bed availabilities communicated. And once we've got that and nailed it, we're going to move on to looking at developing a strategy for the perfect patient, and making sure that there's a meet and greet system in place up on Ward 16 when we discharge patients. We also need to work a little bit more on the feedback metrics for patients, from patients and staff. And again, because we've only been doing this for 2 weeks, it's been quite difficult to gain any really rich feedback. We're also going to re-implement a revised Plan A, and a Plan A is introducing standard work for the ward round, so that everybody speaks from the same hymn sheet every single time, every single day, and hopefully that will reduce the time it takes to do a ward round. So lots of plans, and we haven't stopped. Obviously, we've got 60 days and 90 days to go.
Okay, fantastic. Cassie and Paula, brilliant. It really good to see, and you know, so much to kind of congratulate you on. I think for a pathway that's been a challenge for us consistently on and off for a long time. So just some really good improvement data there, and really good work, but also great to hear the enthusiasm about keeping going. So I'm sure there will be some questions, but we are, and you bang on time as well. So thank you for that. That's also another a lean presentation, which is what we like to see as well. So thank you for that. I'm sure there's some questions, but we'll move straight on, if we may. Hannah, I know you're going to update us on duty of candour review in adult crit care.
Hi, good afternoon. Next slide, please. So my LIM project was looking at our duty of candour review process. Some of our potential healthcare associated affections are classed as moderate harm, so that triggers our duty of candour process. And I found that the review process for those letters before they went out was quite prolonged. Sometimes they weren't going out in a timely manner. There was a lot of variation across our CSU. Sometimes there was too much or too little input, and the sign-off process was not always very clear. Sometimes it involved too many people with lots of amendments, and just prolonged that whole process. And sometimes unit matrons didn't always have oversight of those letters that were being sent out in relation to care delivered on their units. Linking that in with the 7 Cs, my aim was to try and enhance the care that we provide to our patients, and communicating outcomes in a more timely manner, and identifying some key focus areas, implementing actions, and giving assurance to our patients and relatives with a quicker turnaround. Next slide, please. So this was a kind of an example of some of the scenarios that we faced. So sometimes letters were sent out to multiple people, but sometimes missed out the unit matron. They would get 2 or more amended documents back. It took a long time to sort of amalgamate all those comments back together. Prolonged process, waiting for comments and reviews, and that led to a delay in sending out letters. Or sometimes it would only go to 1 person review and then get sent out. And then when we did a sense check looking at datexes, some of the language was maybe outdated or poor, or it missed some details that we would have added in to send out to those relatives or patients. So linking that in with the Tim Woods aspect of the Leeds improvement method, there was some overproduction, overprocessing, and some excess wait times for letters to go out. Next slide, please. So on the left-hand side, you can see my scribbles looking at some of the processes when I put together a spaghetti diagram. So we looked at what our current process was. My line manager discussed it with the head of nursing and the matrons, and we agreed what the process should look like. It was discussed at our IPC focus groups and taken to matrons meetings to ask for feedback on how they feel about the duty of candour process. So you've got the after there, which is our ideal process for reviewing duty of candour letters before they go out, which just includes the lead investigator, the unit matron to review, then it goes to our quality lead or head of nursing in her absence, and then would go out. But then it just involved less people in that reviewing process and was a leaner way of working. Next slide, please. So the outcome led to some clear guidance on the duty of candour review process, an improved standard of letter contents and a quicker turnaround of letter reviews. So a lot less time spent amending letters and reduction in time between it being written and posted out, and it reduced the steps in the process. I've had some really good positive feedback from my colleagues that are using the flowchart, and matrons seem to have greater oversight of contents of letters. Obviously, if a complaint came in, it goes to the matrons, so they need to know what letters are going out in relation to the care being delivered on their units. This is still a work in progress, so there's work still ongoing to embed this standard work, and there's been a lot of challenges around acuity and lack of management time for our Band 7 teams across critical care, which has led to delays in duty of candour letters going out, but that's just because lack of management time. But the process is being followed, but some people have added in some additional steps just for their own assurance. Overall, our investigation process from the date of notification to the letter being sent has been reduced from 28 to 26 days, and we've reduced the length of time between the first draft of letter being and then the approved version being sent out is reduced by about 3 days on average. Next slide, please. So what went well? The IPC leads have been really receptive to the clear guidance on the duty of candour process. We've got some new Band 7s within our CSU that have found the flowcharts quite useful to follow whilst they're learning about investigation processes. This has also led to the creation of some more standard work, and a flowchart has been developed to cover all patient safety related incidents within our CSU. This applies to all duty of candour letters being written by not just nursing but also AHP and medical staff, and ensures that we've got quite a robust review and sign-off process. And matrons know their business and have better oversight of what issues and concerns and themes are in their clinical area. Next slide, please. So this is just a flowchart. It's quite small, but it's better when it's zoomed in on. But you can see the review process. So for the broader patient safety related events, if it's a medical event, there's a process there to follow. But it makes sure that the unit matron is also at the heart of that, and they're aware of what letters are going out in relation to their clinical area. Next slide, please. What would I do differently? Lead with the why. What was the problem and why we needed to change, and spend more time explaining the challenges with the previous process and why a change was required. I also inadvertently eliminated myself from the process, so I did also assist with reviewing of duty of candour letters. So in this process, I took myself out of it, which meant that data collection was quite challenging. So maybe in future when I do projects, don't take myself out of the process. Key learning. Even simple projects can be very, very challenging to implement, as demonstrated by my little cartoon there. So just setting small goals, and even if small elements of that project are utilised and lead to an improvement, then that's a win. And next steps, keep communicating that standard work for the duty of candour reviews at NDT level, and continue to reinforce and remind staff of the process and include that standard work in communication about investigations. And that's it from me. Fantastic.
Thank you very much, Hannah. Well done, and great work on that. And I think speaks really to thinking about what our patients need from us and how we kind of keep that at the centre. But also, it's really good to think about the fact that if we can make everybody's working lives easier, actually they've got more time and headspace to think about that question as well. So I think that's really good to see that work. And well done on those good reflections at the end there about that, particularly that middle one, that actually even small projects sometimes can be quite challenging, and so not to set off to try and fix everything, but actually that continuous improvement step is what's been successful for us. So well done, great work, Hannah. Thank you. I'm going to keep us moving because we've got Hayley going to take us through the errors in the health and safety audit. So Hayley, can I come to you?
Yeah, thanks, Phil. Yes, hello everyone. I'm Hayley from the health and safety team, and I had a few LIM projects all related to the health and safety controls assurance process, may become more commonly known as the health and safety audit. So for those who know, definitely know about it, but those who don't, it's an annual audit where every department ward, over 700, get involved and self-assess their level of compliance, and do so by evidencing their compliance, uploading documents, and we use the document sharing platform, the Hub, used to be the old SharePoint. Next slide, please. So the problem, the challenge, when staff were completing this health and safety audit, they'd make quite a few unintended administration errors. And that led to email traffic to trying to correct those errors, then delays in getting the results, frustration on both sides, and potentially inaccurate health and safety results just because maybe people had made a mistake completing a form or uploading it. And just to give you kind of the current state of everything, the health and safety team is just 14 members, and it's over 700 departments participating each year. And in the 2024 health and safety audits, 11,407 documents, health and safety documents, are uploaded. So it's quite a time-consuming process for us to work through. We've got minimal resilience in the team. I did run a survey because we've got limited metrics on this because there aren't any analytics related to the hub. And I ran a survey at the end of 2023 on that audit cycle, and 55% of the respondents said administrative aspects were a barrier. And so that links in with the commitment to use our existing digital systems to their full potential. Next slide, please. So I've got that satisfaction survey, the feedback from that I shared with the team. We identified a few different projects we're working on, but I'm just going to talk about how we try to amalgamate documents where we could. So have all the audit questions, the guides, but log sheets, checklists, all in one place, like a one-stop shop. And we tested it out with a few people beforehand and communicate the changes. I did videos, meetings with health and safety coordinators. This links into that Tim Woods 8 Ways of Lean, because there was over processing, the number of clicks, finding documents, uploading, and these defects, mistakes. So trying to simplify the process. And it definitely links into a plan, do, study, act, because it is a cyclical process doing the audit. Next slide, please. So if we look at the 2024 audit where we made those improvements, we had a change from like just shy of 11,500 documents being uploaded to just over 7,000. So we reduced that number of documents. For low risk environments like admin teams, that's actually a 50% reduction just in the number of templates they have to find and complete and upload. And I ran another survey. So a similar one to the back end of 2023. I ran a survey, and 2 of the findings here I pulled out. Did the process improve? And staff responded saying, yeah, 58% agreed it did. And drilling down a bit further, I've got the different improvement projects we did. And 40% felt that that master document, amalgamation of documents, was a key improvement. Next slide, please. What went well, I pulled out a few comments, feedback from the audit in those kind of coloured writing. So verbal accounts saying, oh yeah, they thought there'd been an improvement. As a team, we observed fewer errors being made, having to send less emails. So that reduced our processing time. Positive stakeholder engagement, and really my team, we have got quite the lean methodology head on now. So applying that to a lot of different things in our team. Next slide, please. What would I do differently? I try and do a soft launch. So ideally a soft launch, maybe with a couple of CDs or CSUs, just to identify those teething problems. A key learning, effective stakeholder engagement. If you haven't got that buy-in, it's going to fail. And next steps are, I'm going to be using the feedback from that most recent survey to inform our future improvements, rather than trying to guess what punters want, hear it from the horse's mouth. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thanks, Hayley. Great work. And I think you can see the results of the positive feedback you've had from that, which is always encouraging when you set off in a project, because you don't want to find that.
Very much. We're doing it for the people.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So well done to everybody there. We've got some time now for questions. I just wanted to, one of the things I think has been great from all 3 of you teams presenting, Cassie, Paula, Hannah and Hayley, is how much you've thought about the people involved. And I think that's just tells us how important it is to think about our teams when we're doing this type of improvement work and how we can keep people. I just wanted to get perhaps some of your thoughts from any of you around that, because everybody's really feeling the pressure. We're feeling, it's really tough to be working anywhere in the organisation at the moment, and just wondering, people can sometimes see this as needing extra time, extra headspace, just can feel like more work. So just interested in what thoughts you've had about how you've kind of tried to tackle that, Hayley.
Yeah, I really felt that when I was coming back using some of the terminology, I think people thought I'd maybe been indoctrinated or brainwashed when I was really kind of positive about the training I'd been on. So I asked Karen, who was the head of the department at the time, said, I want everyone to do the foundation training in my department. because actually I didn't really feel I was geared up to be able to deliver it in an effective way. Trying to get them on board with the terminology and the process, they were very kind of instantly resistant to this change. But honestly, once they'd been on the foundation training, they were like, wow, that was really good. They were super positive and engaged. It made such a big difference because I was just meeting a barrier immediately within my team otherwise, which is why I kind of included it in there. It's made a massive difference. And then as we've been doing it more and more, they're thinking of projects. It just organizes your thoughts and you're on the same page.
Yeah, that's really helpful, Hayley. Actually, it's really important reflection, because actually making sure as many staff as possible have kind of got at least the basics of understanding of the approach. It just shows how important that is for all of us across the organisation.
Across every level as well, sorry. Yeah, just across every level. Yeah,
no, absolutely. Paula, Cassie, Hannah, anything you kind of thoughts or reflections on that?
I think we discovered quite early on that even in healthcare, everybody speaks a different language and understands things in a different way. So modifying how we have communicated what we're trying to do and the achievements has kind of reached out to the different teams. For example, the medical teams seem to understand and work in a more numerical way, sort of looking the facts and the figures, whereas we're probably, as a nurse, I feel I'm a bit more anecdotal and talk an awful lot. So by modifying how we've communicated our successes, that gets more people on board, and understanding that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great bit of feedback, actually, because you're absolutely right. I think there is something thinking how we work together as a whole team and all talk the same language. I think it's a really good reflection, even internally, within a unit, as it were. So I think that's a really good point. Really,
there's nothing wrong with anything. It's just understanding it, I think, more than anything.
Yeah.
I think as well for us, it's because we've been working cross CSU as well, haven't we, Paula? So it's making sure we're sort of capturing everybody and getting the support of everybody with it being cross CSU.
Yeah, and it's a tricky pathway, as we know, and it's been one for a long number of years. We've had several goes at, so I think it's really encouraging to see that, particularly that piece of data about the bed weights. That's just hugely inspiring to see that we can get that down to 0. So well done. Right, let's open it out then. We've got a couple of minutes if anyone wants to come in and with a comment or a question for any of those 3 great presentations. Anybody got anything they want to add in from any of the teams or anybody else? No. Okay, stunned into silence with the excellence of what you've done. So well done. I think nobody's got any ideas to kind of add to what you've presented to us. So I think well done to that. And actually, I really enjoyed those 3 presentations. So well done. And I hope you found them of value, particularly in your own training, but also then thinking about that broader work. So we'll see Paula and Cassie, I'm sure, back in 30 more days for, I hope, continued progression. Well done to Hannah and Hayley for the work that you've presented and as part of your own experience, and some really good lessons for us to take away and think about how we engage everybody in this, make sure that people have got some tools to do their own improvement and feel part of the improvement journey. Okay, right. Well, in which case I shall bring it to a close today. Thank you again to all presenters, keeping to time, and a slightly early finish, which I think for a three session report out is probably a first. So that shows that we're doing our own PDSAs. Well done, everybody. Have a good weekend if you are taking some time off, and see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.